Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of You're the Cure. I'm Dr. Ben Edwards. We have a repeat guest today, Mollie Engelhardt. Mollie, welcome back to the show from Sovereignty Ranch in Bandera, Texas. So
Thank
good to
you
see
so
you
much
again.
for having me, and thank you for having me be a repeat guest and coming out to the ranch and participating in what we're doing.
Yep.
I
Well,
love finding kindred spirits that are committed to the same things that I am, because sometimes I feel a little bit like an alien out here.
yeah. And that's one of the big motivations of asking you to come back on is just highlighting that very fact that you just said, because so many people right now think there's just so much craziness in the world, corruption being exposed, lies here, lies there, everywhere. Who can you trust? What in the world's going on? And we need to remember there's lots of good people. And actually, there's way more good-hearted people. It's just these folks in charge of things that make it look like, because they have so much influence on so many areas of our life, so many institutions, but the people on the ground, the boots on the ground, front lines folks like yourself and your team that are doing such amazing things. I like to highlight that. I like to bring that to the forefront so people can see there's some beautiful stuff happening. And a lot of our guests are doing amazing things, but y'all in particular. So I just want to say, guys, I was down there in Bandera, was honored to be invited to speak at Food is Medicine conference. If y'all might remember, a few months ago, had Mollie and her brother Ryland on the podcast talking about that conference, and it was great. And just, but what they've done down there, and we'll get into that later, amazing. I mean, my wife Jamie and I and little Poppy, our daughter, walking around on the ranch, and I remember walking by those fig trees. And I told Jamie, and guys, I mean, you got to see this to believe it, but it's this row of huge fig trees. And I've got a fig tree. I planted a fig tree in Lubbock, Texas, on our land, and I watered it some. And it's like not even tall as me and this skinny. But anyways, walking by these fig trees, and I'm like, oh wow, Jamie, look at that. And they're so lucky they bought a ranch that already had this amazing fig tree orchard. And then I talked to Mollie, and Mollie's like, "Oh, no, we planted that." I couldn't believe just I mean, that's one little thing, fig trees, but it's just spoke to me, not only your gifting in regenerative ag, your love of the land, your stewardship of it, and your dedication to just going full steam ahead with what God's showing you to do. So, but we loved our time at the ranch, what you've done there, the restaurant, amazing guys. I highly recommend you get down there and eat some of Mollie's food. It's incredible, and we'll get into all that. But Mollie, I just want to start with number one. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for having Jamie and I down to the ranch, and the Food is Medicine conference was awesome. But I've been reading the book, guys. Here's Mollie's book, just out this year, Debunked by Nature. The subtitle here, How a Vegan Chef Turned Regenerative Farmer Discovered That Mother Nature is Conservative. And forward by Joel Salatin. Awesome guy. We've had Joel on the show a few times. But the book, that's what I really want to get to. Of course, we can talk about anything, but your motivation for writing that, I mean, you put a lot in there. You kind of laid your life out there for all to see. And you were just saying before we hit record, that's, a little bit anxiety provoking could be putting your putting your vulnerabilities out there. But the book, I just want people to hear from your heart. Um, why'd you decide to write this book? And then we'll get into what's in the book.
Um, you know, I had a series of awakenings where I had to change I didn't have to. What was revealed to me showed me that these ideologies that I had held true as fact or truth, I realized were not rooted in God, not rooted in nature, not rooted in reality. And I realized how hard it was for people to change their mind publicly. And I thought, what the best thing I could do with this is to publicly share, how did I come to these conclusions? How did I change my mind? Because people would just say, like, how did a vegan chef become a Texas cattle rancher? That doesn't add up, they would say. Or, you're married to people text me on Instagram, are you married an undocumented person? Now you're talking about secure the border. What's wrong with you? Don't you love your children and your husband? And so I thought, I think in a world that's so divided, the ability to publicly change our mind and to say, what I believed then doesn't make sense. And here's why it doesn't make sense for me anymore. And this is why I believe this now, is actually an act of bravery in this current world. And so I decided to do it. And it was very intimate. Like writing the book was, I got up every morning from 4 to 6 in the morning and wrote. And then I'd send chapter after chapter to my editor at Acres USA, and we would go back and forth. And it was a pretty intimate process. And funny thing, I just seen him, and I guess I spoke about this on another podcast. I seen him at the Acres conference in Wisconsin, and he said, I had to have a weird conversation with my children because they were like, we heard Mollie say on a podcast she had an intimate time with you, Dad. And he was like, there's different kinds of intimacy, but it was just me and him and back and forth and back and forth. And then the book was done, right? And then somebody else did the graphic rearranging. And then all of a sudden, anybody with $20 in an Amazon Prime account could see into my soul. And I remember I was in a Thai food restaurant with my husband. I got up and I went to the restroom, and in the restroom, it was a couple days after the book had come out, and a woman said, I recognize you from Instagram. I just ordered your book. And then I went and I sat down to pee, and I thought, I felt so naked all of a sudden. I just realized anybody and everybody now can be like inside my soul. But I think that there's a value in being that vulnerable. And I think there's a value that I'm sharing with the world in doing that. And it for sure hit me a little late after the book had already come out, how vulnerable it was. But I think that if we don't acknowledge that changing your mind is possible, and we aren't willing to change our mind, then we don't have wisdom, because wisdom has to be willing to take the current and new information. And I say all the time, I mean, you hear this too in the world of medical freedom and the truthers and everybody. This person is a planned opposition, or this person or this. And my thing that I'm always saying is like, I feel that person is genuine. And if information came to light, or I currently believe this thing, but if other information came to light, I'm willing to change my mind. And at 25, I thought I knew everything. And at 47, I'm pretty sure I know very little about what's real and what's not.
Yeah. Well, and I want to highlight and you kind of self-corrected yourself. You said you had to choose, and that's a big thing right there. The ability to choose. Because people, I think, this desire for comfort, we're looking for this comfortable life, comfortable peer group, comfortable. We don't want to be uncomfortable. And so when information comes to light that makes us potentially uncomfortable, or if this changes my way of thinking, I mean, the word repent means change your thinking. So this new thing comes, it challenges my old comfort zone. Most people actually crave comfort so much, they're going to choose to look the other way or just ignore that or whatever. But you said you made the choice. You didn't have to, but you chose to. That's huge. So being willing, and I'd say humble enough to make the choice of, hey, I learned something new and I'm going with it, even though that could put me into the unknown. And human beings don't like unknown. We like predictability. We like to know that tomorrow I'll be provided for and protected and safe and all that predictable stuff. And that keeps people in these old mindsets and in this groupthink and comfort zone. And then we just sit there and defend that thing. So that's a big character virtue that you carry, that you made that choice.
And when we are so attached to our truth being the truth, like whatever we believe, we will seek that out. And
Mm.
I can't remember the guy that wrote the book with Peter McCullough, I think, the book that has the it's
Yep.
about the vaccines.
Yep.
Has
Vaccines, ideology, myths. Yep.
Yeah, he was just on a podcast recently, and he was saying that science, we put it in the same category as, say, engineering or mathematics or these other things that have these very concise rules. But the truth is, most people doing studies are going into their scientific studies with a planned outcome they'd like to get to, and then they're trying to see, how can I prove that? Well, we're all doing that all the time. You know, we are all doing bad science to agree with ourselves. And even I've had transformations and I've learned, so I notice myself collecting evidence for what I believe. I was on Del Bigtree's podcast the other day, and I was talking about every time someone has a heart attack or fast growing cancer, I'm like, oh, the COVID vaccine. And they're like, they didn't take the COVID vaccine. I'm like, oh, that's messing up my, like I have these these ideas that I like try to put things in boxes. And I think that if we're willing to truly listen to each other and not try to take the stuff that each other's saying and put it into boxes that we already recognize, we're going to hear much greater information than if we're always trying to categorize it like, oh, that's a liberal and they don't know what that's person still trust the government. They don't know what they're talking, and we do put these little categories. We're not even listening to each other. We're just listening to our internal dialogue about what they're saying. And so my current practice that I'm working on, and I'm not great at it yet, but I'm working on, is just hearing what people are saying and not trying to akin it to something I already know and understand, but just hear what they're saying, their experience, their world view, whether I agree with it or not, to just hear it rather than trying to connect it to something I know and understand and put it in those boxes.
Yeah. And that's really a gift or a practiced art of hearing. I mean, because we can listen, but if we're just listening for these keywords so we can make our judgments on and put them in the box and all that, versus truly hearing, which is more a heart connection. I mean, there's words coming out of the mouth, but what's the what they really believe, and what's in the heart, and what's the motive, and what's driving that? And anyways, there's just so much more intimate human connection to be had when you're truly hearing. So yeah, I'm right there with you.
I mean, you did the same thing that I did in a totally different way, and you had to give up so much of your identity. And so you know what it is to
Mm,
strip down the way you make a living, to strip down the identity, the successes, what people see you as, and why they think you're great, and all of that, and to let that go and trust God that there's some other path on the other side of that. And, I'm still in the trusting God and not seeing the path. But that is something that you did, and you are a great inspiration to so many. And I always am talking, ever since I've met you, I've always talking to people about how your transformation is the ripple effect in the world. And that is my goal, is to let my transformation be the ripple effect in the world. And I found out about you from a farmer who totally shifted his whole diet and everything because of the talk that you did on the plains. What's that?
yeah, no till,
No
no
till
till
on
on
the
the
plains.
plains. Yep.
And he said, this guy, I've heard a lot of guys, a lot of doctors, and this guy just got into us farmers, and I heard him, and I realized, and I saw my father's health, and I saw my health, and I saw what my choice was in that moment, and I chose different. And so the next day I said, I got to find this talk on YouTube and listen to it. And I did. I was driving to Austin to do a podcast, and I listened all the way there to your first one and all the way back on your second one that you did there. And I've been a great admirer ever since then.
Well, thank you. That's really sweet of that farmer to say those things. But I want to highlight you because your story. I mean, I think it was on Del Bigtree the other day. Rylan sent me y'all's interview, but I want you to just really, and not, I mean, this in pride or arrogance at all. You're humble, but paint that picture. I mean, I didn't realize till he was really showing some of those clips of y'all's restaurant out. But for folks who don't know anything, haven't read the book, don't know you at all. I mean, you were the go-to lunch place for all the bigwigs in Hollywood.
Yes.
Not that I idolize Hollywood at all, but I'm just saying in the world standard where you were and what other people think of you and just that whole glamour, all that. I mean,
Yes,
share
sir.
that with people. Tell
So
us your story.
So My father and my brother started a restaurant called Cafe Gratitude, and I started a restaurant called Sage Vegan Bistro. And they kind of went uber healthy, raw, a lot of raw ingredients, healthy in the consciousness that we were in. And I went kind of vegan, comfort food, more that accessible to everybody, all organic and all local farmers. And so we were different in what we were doing, and they had more money and everything backing them in the beginning. I was just by myself. And so they kind of took off and got pretty big right away. And then by year 3 or 4, I was outperforming their best performing restaurants. But both of us were like the one, like Beyonce's at lunch at Cafe Gratitude. And, it was crazy. And none of us expected this kind of response to what we were doing. And people just loved, and we were the darlings, the vegan people used to call us the vegan mafia. I don't know, we weren't very mafia like. And I believed that veganism was the pathway way forward for humanity. I believed that it was good for the environment. I knew lots of people who had healed disease by going vegan. And so I had lots of evidence to prove my worldview. And I was just going full out and opened restaurant after restaurant. And I mean, these are big 5,000 square foot restaurants with beer gardens and 24 taps and all like high end fancy cocktails and mocktails. We had the detox retox menu. So you could have like detoxifying mocktails with turmeric or whatever, or you could toxify yourself with organic gin, Aperol spritz or whatever. So and then we were just the place for brunch, the place for lunch, dinner, just 20, 30, 50-minute wait on a Tuesday night. I mean, nothing I could have imagined in my business like proposal. When people are making a business plan, they're always like exaggerating what they think is actually going to happen. I mean, I think my business plan was like, and we could do $2,500 a day. And, I was doing $29,000, $32,000 in a day in one restaurant. And I had 5 restaurants. And so it was uber successful. But somewhere along the way, I learned about regenerative farming from my brother had met a guy named Graham Sate. And I got really interested in keeping all my food waste in the loop and turning it into compost. And so because of that, I tried to convince every celebrity or any person that looked rich that came into the restaurant, which is a lot of people in Los Angeles, you should buy a farm and I'm going to bring all the compost from the restaurant and then we can bring it back and we can keep the food in the loop, and then you could grow food and I'll bring it back. And it would be like literally Courtney Love or somebody. They'd be like, oh, that's a cool idea. The coach from the Clippers. Oh, that's a nice idea. Like nobody was going to buy a farm so I could compost. So I realized like, you're the one you've been waiting for. And so I buy a farm, and it took years for me to save up enough money and all the stuff. And so I found out about regenerative agriculture in 13, and in 18, I bought a farm. And wow, farming broke my mind open that there's no vegan food. And I'm also crushing it. Like I'm at the pinnacle of my career. I'm crossed arms in my chef coats on the cover of magazines. And I'm just every day like, you're saving the animals. You're so amazing. And I'm literally like hiding my milk cow from Instagram because I'm realizing Tetra packs of oat milk is filled with glyphosate, and I don't want to do seed oils, and there's seed oils in all the fake milks. And I'm in this, and I say, I'm going to sell my restaurants. There's no reason to just like burn it down. There's other people that still believe in this mission, and I'm going to sell my restaurants and I'm going to move on to regenerative agriculture. That's what I believe in. And I did, 15 years of work to get to this level. I'm going to cash out. And this big venture capital firm that wanted to do veganism and had other vegan stuff, they're coming in, and it's $25 to $31 million they're going to buy my restaurants for. And I'm prideful and think I deserve more than that, but I want to get out. And so I'm like, let's go. And I have to go through 3/4 of the year to meeting all these markers, because they don't want to buy a business where like we've been hiding something or, something. So they have to go through this process with you. And so you have to open up your books, and I blow it out of the water. Fourth quarter of 19, it's just the best fourth quarter we've ever had in the history of, and we're opening another restaurant. So by the time the deal closes, there's going to be another restaurant, and it's just amazing. First quarter of 2020, best first quarter we've ever had. Culver City, which is like my crown jewel. It's my second restaurant I already ever opened, but my first restaurant where I had investors and I could really set it up the way to be the most efficient. And I'd learned from my first restaurant. It's my crown jewel of efficiency and amazingness. And it's trending to do $9 million based on what we did first quarter of 2020. I'm like, I literally don't have to do anything but just have a regular second quarter of 2020, and I'm getting $31 million. I'll have to work part-time for them for 5 years and not open any other restaurants. Great. I'm going to get into agriculture. I'm going to just focus on that. And then once my non-compete is up and I've helped them for 5 years, I'm going to do regenerative restaurants. It's awesome. I'm literally looking up private chefs. I've been cooking every day, 12 hours a day, 8 hours a day for 15 years. I'm like, I'm not going to cook for a whole year. I'm going to hire a chef. And COVID hits, and they just decide no indoor dining in Los Angeles for 2.5 years. And all venture capital money dries up. Banks stop lending on hospitality, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I go from thinking I'm about to retire or, go to part-time and start this new business and also be able to spend so much more time with my children. I've been taking my kids to work. All my kids were worn in a carrier all through the restaurant. I was just telling someone today that when I'm pregnant, I can carry 6 plates instead of 4 plates because I can use my belly as to help my wrist not have to hold the weight of all 3 plates. And so they were like, so your kids were running food in the womb? And I was like, all 4 of my kids ran food in the womb. But I'm just so overjoyed that I'm going to get to be a mom more and less of an entrepreneur, and that all disappears. And I have to pivot and pivot and pivot and pivot. And ultimately, multiple of my restaurants didn't survive, and we closed multiple restaurants. We tried to do kitchen-to-go kitchens only, but all the Uber Eats and all them take 30%, and restaurants average a 10% profit margin. So it's a very small margin. And so there was no way I could figure it out. And I closed multiple stores. I bled through so much money that if I had just bought Bitcoin or gold or silver or anything, I would be fine right now. And so at the end of COVID, I had moved. So I had to move to Texas because I had to sell my house because I needed the equity out of it because I just was like trying to survive. And I had bought this ranch in Texas early pandemic thinking, oh, well, the deal is postponed right now. We were still like in contract, but it was postponed. And I thought, I'll just open some more restaurants in Texas. It's happening there. It's open. And then I'll be able to get more than $31 million and it'll be even better. And so I bought this ranch to support restaurants in Austin and in San Antonio and maybe other places. But it became apparent that the bleeding was too great for me to open any more restaurants. I just couldn't. And then it became apparent that I couldn't afford to have both places. And then it became apparent that it was going to be easier to sell the place in California than here. And so I moved to Texas, and I had just only 2 restaurants left in Los Angeles. And God put it on my heart that the restaurants were not in integrity with what I believed anymore. And I needed to come out of the closet, and I needed to say what I believed about regenerative agriculture. And I needed to switch my restaurants to regenerative. And that went poorly. The vegans lost their mind, and they kept getting me put permanently closed on Yelp and on Google, and that's all crowdsourced. So you just have to stand outside the restaurant and update this restaurant is permanently closed. enough people do that, and if you have a consolidated effort, they can continue to keep getting it to say permanently closed. And so they protested, they threw blood, they put terrible memes on the internet, and on and on and on and on. And so I tried that for a year, bled out whatever I had left. And then I had no choice but to close. And I did during the fires in January of this year. Um, in the fires, like it was biblical, like we're shutting down these restaurants and there's crazy wind we've never seen before. It seemed unnatural, and ash falling down and trying to salvage whatever the landlords are letting us take, which was limited because we were behind on the rent, and getting it into trucks. And that was the end of what was a dynasty in LA.
Wow. What an amazing journey.
Yeah.
Standing on what you believe, going with your convictions. That's a testimony.
It
that
is.
will-
And I don't feel like I was forsaken in any way. And I can't see the path right now, like exactly clearly, but I, I feel led and I feel honored that I'm able to hear and follow. And I think that everything led to something, and I don't know the ripple effect. I'll never know the ripple effect of making that decision publicly, of having all that trauma kind of around it happen. And I may never know the ripple effect, but I can trust that there was a benefit to the whole, even if there was a harm financially to me.
Yeah. Well, and that's an ultimate test of our faith. Like I said earlier, humans love to be able to predict that tomorrow will be taken care of, provided, and protected. And so ultimately trusting God in that. So this is a huge faith journey. Just believing this invisible spirit out there. um,
But that's kind of what my book is about, is that the perfection of nature is to really sit and observe the perfection of nature and what God designed, is to know that it wasn't an accident, is to know that there wasn't just some bang and then some little amoebas turned into whatever. Like there's so much perfection and so much beauty that it is to know that he exists, I think, if we're really observant. And I think that the divine intelligence is so prolific that it seems a little crazier to think that it just on accident happened.
yeah, there's a great book I read years ago. I don't have enough faith to be an atheist. The point you just made. I mean, to believe that this amazing engineering that we're seeing, I mean, especially in this age of AI, which fine, AI can be used for good, it can be used for bad. It's not necessarily the technology, but just the fact that we're trying to design something with artificial intelligence and we're making stuff out of plastic and whatever, synthetic polymers, and it's nowhere near. I mean, just the engineering of the wrist and the hand. I was reading that somewhere yesterday that they just can't get this down, and they probably never will with a robot. The engineering that's in what a thumb and a pinky and just the hand, the whole motion. It's an incredible design. I mean, divine intelligence, DI. It's not even a close second on this AI thing. Um,
I always say we're going to try to go to high tech and like look at a solar panel and then look at a field of grass or a garden. They're both
yeah,
doing the same thing, but one has all this waste and child labor and
yeah.
people that are in internment camps assembling and all this craziness and metals that are being mined from everywhere and silver shortages. And a garden or a grassland has zero waste. Nothing is wasted. The Most High is the highest tech of the land. No matter what we want to believe, we cannot outsmart, out technology God, because he is the most high tech of it all.
And this whole thing's set up to distract us at the minimum until we put our faith in other things, including ourself, our own smarts. Now, God, we're made in his image, but we've got to consult him. We've got to listen and be guided by and be obedient and step out like you have, kind of blind this, into this blind zone where you can't clearly see how am I going to get out of this, or show me something. And you're just going to the truth.
The rough morning and dealing with the county and some issues there, finances, bills due, collectors calling, just all these things that we're feeling. And this woman comes into the restaurant and she goes to buy some stuff at the farm store. And I was like, okay, I'm going to try to put on a happy face and go over and thank her for coming. It only works if the community supports it. And she goes, the Lord wants me to know for you that the Lord wants me to tell you that you should keep going even when you feel weary. And I said, thank you. And then I started crying because like, what are the chances? Like, I don't know. Like, what are the chances that like, I'm just like dealing with all this stuff, having a little spat with my husband because, it's when life gets stressful, then we want to like blame the other person for how they're handling it or how we, who it was like the dumbest spat. It was about the windshield wipers wiping still on the windshield and making a squeaking. And he was like, you don't hear that? And then I was like, I'm trying to fix this thing that's happening that feels urgent. And like, it was so dumb. It was a dumb spat. And then, I'm trying to deal with the county and they're coming on me about this correction they want me to do. And I just, felt, yeah, keep going even when you feel weary. And I literally just apologized. Like, I'm so sorry. I just started crying. But I mean, I don't know. It was just so weird that I was like, okay, let me put on a happy face and go over there. And I didn't feel like I was showing anything but joy and invitingness. And she just looked at me and she said, the Lord wants you to know that you need to keep going even when you feel weary and it's all going to work out. And I was like,
Yeah.
just started crying.
God loves you, and God spoke through that woman. That woman listened and was obedient and spoke his word to you in that moment and touched you. That's how God works. It's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. And I talk about that a lot. Like, nobody's ever in all the years, 15 years I was in the restaurant in Los Angeles, I don't remember someone ever walking up to me and saying, is it okay if I pray with you? Or saying, oh, God wants me to let you know this is a food ministry. This isn't just a restaurant and you're doing his work. Like, and I would say 4 times a week, someone comes up to me, asks if they can pray with me, or shares something that they feel God put on their heart to share with me, or gives me a gift. Like, someone just gave me a head of a axis, and he was like, the Lord said that you need this for a decoration in one of your buildings. And I was like, okay, thank you. Like, I don't know. That never happened to me in Los Angeles. So I do feel like I keep getting the messages and hearing like, you're in the right place. Just keep going. And so I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful for the outpouring and the people around listening and sharing and praying and shopping and all of it. I'm grateful for.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I just want to encourage you because I know it is tough. And I mean, that's a huge jump, obviously, a huge transition into a new land, new environment, new everything. So, I mean, I'm just going to say this, Molly, and we can edit it out if you don't want me to. But I know there's people all over West Texas, Central Texas. I mean, our podcast, we have people international listening, but obviously a concentration in Texas. And there's a bunch of oil field guys down in the Permian Basin. And I know there's a bunch of heavy equipment operators. And I know there's somebody who can come work on your septic system. And if the county is asking you to do something with your septic that you need help with, I'm just putting a call out there to all the listeners. If you know somebody that in the year wants to donate some time to a cause that is well worth it, you get in touch with Molly at Sovereignty Ranch, or you get in touch with me at Veritas, and we will connect you to Molly. But I just want to say that, Molly. And I want to tell you this too. I don't know if I've shared this on the show. And I know you have your own kind of miracle stories on provision. But when I started learning integrative medicine and I saw people get well, diseases, I mean, reversed, off meds, no blood sugar normal, ulcerative colitis symptoms gone, just they're well. It's amazing. but it took 2 hours to do this kind of visit. And in the clinic I was in, and in any insurance clinic, you get 7 minutes. So I went to the county board and told them, listen, guys, I'm learning this. People get well. It's awesome. I'm going this way. If a patient asks me to help them get to the root of it, I'm going to say yes, but I'm going to tell them to make a follow-up appointment for 1 hour instead of 7 minutes. And so I told the board, obviously, if enough people are asking and I'm saying yes, I'm going to go down to 8 visits a day instead of 50 visits a day, and we're going to lose money. So just fair warning kind of deal. Anyways, long story, I'll shorten it because so I got fired because of that. So we get fired, or I get fired. I call Jamie, meet me at the clinic. We got to load up this on a Friday afternoon, have to be out by Monday morning, loaded up our stuff. She felt released like a butterfly coming out of the cocoon. It's how she described it, freedom to just release. It was within a few days. She calls a realtor. It's like, hey, we are looking for a place within 30 minutes of Lubbock that has some terrain to it, not flat, not in the middle of a cotton field, 50 to 100 acres with a home for 4 kids and just all these things. And the realtor says, well, honey, that doesn't exist. Flat with no cotton field in West Texas within 30 minutes of Lubbock. And anyways, he called back a couple days later and he actually found a place that had that exact description, this draw that runs northwest out of Lubbock towards Abernathy. And it was a terrace field, old CRP grass everywhere. It's amazing. And we went and looked, and Jamie really felt like the Lord said, this is your place. And of course, all I'm thinking about is money. Like, I just got fired. I don't have a guaranteed paycheck. I don't know what I'm doing with this holistic stuff yet. Who's going to pay me to do a holistic medical visit when I barely know what I'm doing? And I'm just crunching the numbers. And we did a lowball offer because I'm thinking there's no way this guy's going to take this. So we'll just go ahead and, well, he took it. Anyways, we're having a little tiff. And I'm like, Jamie, because we were doing the math for closing costs and all this stuff, $13,500 is what I was going to need to walk in, write this check for closing. Not a huge amount, but knowing the bills, we got 4 kids, and we just found out we're pregnant with the 5th. No paycheck coming in, all this stuff. We have a mortgage already. Now we're going to have a second. And anyways, I'm like, Jamie, money doesn't just show up on trees. I mean, it just doesn't come poof out of nowhere. $13,500 just going to show up. And, I was being all, and she just said, hey, God said, he's our provision. It'll show up. And I said, that's when I said, money doesn't just show up. And we kind of went our separate ways that day. The next day, because I still had the contract with the county clinic to see their inmates, I'd go every Tuesday morning at 7 a.m., see the inmates, whoever needed was sick. So I went that day. Well, in the jail, the concrete walls are so thick, you don't get good cell phone service. So she knows not to call me when I'm at the jail because it won't go through. Well, somehow this phone call gets through and it's her. And I'm in the jail and I look at that and I go, must be an emergency because she never calls me when I'm in the jail. And so I said, hello. And she said, you need to sit down. And I thought, oh boy, somebody died. That's, for sure an emergency. And she said, I just went to the mailbox and got an envelope addressed to you. I opened it and there's a check in there for $8,500. And I was like, what? I mean, my dad sells Xerox copiers. We don't come from wealth. I don't play the lottery. I don't have investments, stock, whatever. I mean, I get maybe $10, $20 in a birthday card from grandma. And then she said, hold on, there's a second envelope. And I opened it and it had a check in there for $4,500. $13,000. When I just said,
it doesn't grow on.
Yeah, it just showed up. And what it was from 7 years before, Congress had passed a law saying residents, medical interns and residents don't have to pay income tax on their income when they're in residency, and will retroactivate it to the year 2000. And so that qualified some of my years. So my residency program had gotten in touch with me like 4 years before to say, hey, the Congress just passed this law, sign this form, we'll collect this money for you. Well, that was 4 years ago. I totally forgot about it. And that's the check that came that day. But I just want to say that. And I know because you told me about a money divine provision that came to you. So I know you know that already, but just felt like I wanted to share that with you to encourage you and the listeners out there. And it's not about just miracle money showing up. It's the miracle people with the word of encouragement like you got today, that God is real. Go ahead.
I have 25 stories like that. It's crazy. God provides. And even this last week, behind on my sales tax, and they were going to say that my liquor license was going to, and I have this land in California that's still in my name because the people that are row cropping it with me didn't have the credit, and we left it. I had a low interest arm, and so until next year, well, they've just got a loan and they want to buy me out of my equity the little bit, and so like I literally woke up and was like, we have 2 days to come up with $14,000 to pay this, and then $20,000. And I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do for Christmas. We don't have any extra money. And $20,000 showed up last week, and they were like, we're gonna pay you the rest of the 60,000 that we owe you in the next couple weeks because we need to pay you off before we switch the arm out of your name. And so, and I mean, I have like crazier stories than that, but over and over, the Lord has shown me that. And if you read my book, there is even a story about Kanye West being a miracle, and showing up on behalf of the Lord is the only way I can say it. So I do believe that, and sometimes it's just hard when you're up against it and the bureaucracy or the bills or the whatever, and I sometimes I just wanna be like, "Lord, I'm here, I'm following, I'm listening, and I'd love it if the abundance could flow a little faster." And I was literally praying about this in the shower the other day, and literally what I heard was like, "Why do you need to know? Why do you need to know? If you just know, then you know. Why do you
Yeah.
need to know that it's there? Why do you need to see it in the bank?" And I was like, I just want to, like my ego, my identity, Mollie,
Yeah.
mother of
Yeah.
4 small children,
Yeah.
wants that security. And I was like, Lord, I hear you. And I would just love a little more security, a little bit more, little faster flow. I would really appreciate it. But
Yeah.
that was the lesson, is like, I am the provider. And if you know that, and if you trust that, then you don't need to get yourself all worried.
Yeah.
And so that is the practice that I am practicing. And I have this silver coin that I carry around in my pocket as a reminder that the Lord's abundance like is there, is a provision, and that the dollars or whatever in the bank account um are not necessarily a measure of the provision that you have and that he has for you. And so I don't know why this silver coin is that prayer, but it's just I keep it in my pocket all the time to remind me
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
this is a real value, and those dollars that you see on the bank are actually not a real value, and that the Lord's true abundance is there for us all the time. And I hold
Yeah.
this in my pocket all the time, every day, as my prayer and reminder to keep my
Yeah.
attention on that, and to keep my subconscious and conscious prayers remembering that.
Yeah.
So that
Amen.
is,
It reminds me of a story a guy told me one day when he asked me, "Well, what's in abundance?" Because God gives us an abundance, and I'm like, "Well, a lot." And he said, He'll meet your needs, and if you lay your head down at night and you have one penny in your pocket, that's more than you needed today. Your need was met. You had more than you needed. That's an abundance, more than you needed. Okay, but that's living by faith, not by sight, which is what the word says. We don't live by sight, we live by faith. So is my bank statement gonna tell me what the truth is, or is the word of God gonna tell me what the truth is? That's what you're putting on display, and I mean, I know what you're talking about. This isn't, and you said it too, you're practicing this. This is a we're working out our faith. I mean, this is a growth stage, but we're all on it. We're all on this journey being tested on what do we put our hope, trust, and faith in? Because whatever we do, we're going to submit to that thing. And that's what the world's trying to do right now is put fear into us, to drive us into the empire to submit to this thing that's not love. And so you're standing up against that. So that's awesome.
I just want to speak to this and what you're doing and what I'm doing and why we're doing it. I mean, I saw Brooke Rollins's announcement the other day, and I'm happy. My brother helped with that. Like, I'm happy that regenerative agriculture is being spoke about highest levels of government, but government is never going to save us. That's not what they're set up to do. They're set up for something different. But when they said 77% of young men between the ages of 18 and 24 are not military ready, that made me think so deeply about what we are doing and what it means to educate about real food and what it means to provide nutrient dense food and where we are at. We're literally at a cultural collapse. We're in a place right now where 50% of all of our farmland is going to change hands in the next 20 years. This has never happened in any country during peacetime, so we have no reference point for it. And then who are we handing this farmland to? Because if only 23% of young people are capable of farming, I would say that, I mean, of military service, it's at least that low that are capable of farming, because farming needs a lot of the same skills that being a warrior does. And when you look at that and we look around, you go, I was Christmas shopping last night and I'm looking around and the sickness is everywhere, and not in a judgmental way. Like, we are asleep and we are sick and we are so in that empire world that you're talking about, that the little light that Dr. Ben Edwards or Mollie Engelhardt or all these other people that are on this path can be, is the light in the room that can remind people that there is a better way that doesn't involve being sick all the time. I mean, the amount of people, when you just go out into the world and look around, people are sick. And I'm so blessed. I'm 47 years old with no illnesses that I know of. Just, 4 kids back to back in my late 30s, and my till 45. I just had my last child. I'm so blessed with my health, but it's not on accident. My parents, although they were vegetarians, raised me. We grew our own food. We canned, we made everything from scratch. We had a root cellar. We had our apples and beets and cabbage in the basement that we grew ourselves. I was raised to know how to make medicine, make tinctures, make oregano this, and all the different tinctures, all the different salves. My health has always been in my hands. And I've always known that. And that is the greatest gift that my parents could have given me. And if I can give a few people that gift, then whatever the struggle is worth it, because the suffering is so real. And when we implemented the farm plan and SNAP and food lunch program, it was because 23 to 25% of people, 1 in 3 or 1 in 5 young men, were too malnutrition to go to the military. We have swung so far in the other direction in less than 100 years. And it takes what you and I are doing to be the candle, to be the light in this darkness that is happening right now. And so that is what I believe I'm guided to do. And that is what I am trying to put my attention on. And if I can awaken a few people who then awaken their children or their grandparents or their cousins and be that ripple effect, yes, I might be planting an oak tree that I never get to sit in the shade of, but I'm not going to stop planting those acorns, because that's necessary. We are in we're in agrarian collapse. We're in a monetary collapse, and we are also in a human being's collapse. Sperm counts, obesity, sickness, like every metabolic marker shows that we are dying. And you are the cure. Just like you say, we all have the power in us to change what we put in our mouth. Yes, there's chemtrails and chemicals in the water, and there's certain things we can't help, but we can choose what we wash our clothes with. We can choose what we put in our mouth. We can choose what we wash our bodies with, and we can make a huge difference. And I think that's worth fighting for.
Absolutely. And you can choose also to, like Molly at the beginning of the show, You can choose to live life, believe in your heart, and speak with your mouth the truth. And fear is going to try to keep you from doing that. And Mollie Engelhardt's a great example of not living by fear.
No, we have to tell the truth. The weight, that's why I wrote the book. Part of it was the weight of all those little lies that society wants us to tell. And you think it's not a big deal. Like if you just say fed is best, like we're not supposed to say breastfeeding is better than formula. Fed is best, so now we don't hurt anybody's feelings. So that sounds like a good thing. Why do we want to hurt the woman's feelings that gave her baby formula? Well, maybe she's going to have another baby, and maybe she breastfeeds that baby, and maybe that baby is metabolically healthier. And so when she has a baby, the microbiology that she passes on to that baby is healthier. And then the ripple effect of that is so much greater than like not having your feelings hurt. Sometimes we have to have our feelings hurt. My husband says to me the other day, you're like on your phone too much. The kids are talking to you. You're not hearing them. That hurt my feelings. My feelings needed to be hurt. I was not being present. I was so much stuff to take care of and not being present in the moment. And so we can't think we can't hurt. We should not go out and try to hurt people's feelings, but we have to tell the truth when we are called to do so, when it is right in front of us, because the ripple effect of those lies is the same or worse than the ripple effect of the truth.
Absolutely. And that, guys, what Mollie just said, that's the way out. Like she said, too, the government's not going to save us from this. What saves us is truth telling and not walking in fear, walking in love. And love calls out the truth in love but the heart motive of all this is love. So yeah, that's the answer. What you just succinctly put it right there. Mollie, we've got, 9 or 10 minutes left, and I do wanna give you an opportunity to highlight the ranch because Jamie and I loved our time there. We love the restaurant. We love, of course, being with all the people. But just for people that don't know, of course, what the website is, but what's your dream? What's your vision? What's your goal? What are you practically doing right now? How can people engage right now? What about future stuff, other opportunities, dreams, visions, whatever? Just kind of give us that whole spiel in 10 minutes if you can.
Yes, sir. So we have a hospitality ranch here in Central Texas. It was a big dream. I went big. I maybe could have gone smaller to start off, but so we have a restaurant on the ranch, and then we have 40 beds of hospitality in different houses. We have some manufactured homes, some tiny houses, some shipping containers, some glamping tents, different options and different budget levels. We have different spaces for having retreats or workshops. So we have a yurt, we have a conference room that's in the brewery area, and then we have the restaurant, and then we have a big main stage that we didn't use at Food is Medicine. That's for like 1,000 plus people on the field for music or big events. And all of that is available. So if you have an event, a concert, a quinceanera, a wedding, anything like that, we would love to host anything as small as a baby shower up to, we have our Confluence festivals coming up in April. It's more than 1,000 guests. So we have a wide range of what we can provide. And all the protein that we serve here on the ranch comes from the ranch. So people will be like, why don't you have chicken? I want chicken. Well, I'm so sorry. We're not doing meat chickens right now. We just have egg birds. So we're not serving chicken. We're looking at doing 100 birds early in the year to start testing that out. But every bit. So if you get bacon, it's from our pigs. If you get sausage, it's from our pigs. If you get a hamburger, it's from our cows. And we're doing holistic planned grazing. So that means we're moving the cows every single day. We have a small goat herd, a small sheep herd, as well as our primary is beef and pork. And then we have 9 greenhouses. Well, I have 14, but I haven't been able to finish some of them. But we have 9 greenhouses, and we're growing vegetables and citrus, and it's all regenerative. We have living roots in the ground year round. So we have perennials and annuals. So in the centers of the greenhouse, we have perennials. And so there's always a living root supporting the soil, even when we clean up and switch over the crops. So we don't desecrate the microbiology in the soil when we switch it over. So we have vegetables and all of that. And then we have a farm store, and I'm very savvy at making stuff. So we do chapsticks and salves and creams for your face and tinctures and I make a lot of vinegars. We have, persimmons, Texas persimmons vinegar and grape vinegar and all different hot sauces, barbecue sauces, and really creative stuff. He was talking about my fig trees. The most popular hot sauce we have right now is fig hot sauce. I think it'll sell out by Christmas, but they're always a limited edition, whatever the hot sauces are, because it's like whatever's going off, I make 15 cases or 10 cases. And then when it sells out, it won't be back till next year when that comes back. But someone yesterday ordered one fig hot sauce last week, and this week they ordered 15 fig hot sauces and 15 fig jams. And I was like, oh, I bet they're doing baskets for Christmas, and they loved it. So we have all different stuff like that, and you can order online. And we're still trying to raise the last $250,000 to finish the brewery. We have a 25-barrel brewery system where we're going to do kombucha and the first beer with no Roundup in it. It's going to be tested for no glyphosate. And that is happening, but we had to build a new road, and so I underestimated. So we have to raise $250,000 more dollars. So if there's anybody out there that's like, this is awesome, I want to be part of it, and you have money that you could invest in a slow money operation. This is not a quick turnaround. It's not silver or Bitcoin. It's a slow money for the betterment of the planet. You would be part of the whole. It wouldn't just be the brewery, part of the hospitality, the events, the retreats, and all of that. And we'd love to have you for office on-sites or any kind of thing that you would want to do. Come with your family for the weekend and pet the cows and eat here and stay in one of the houses. And we have 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms, tiny houses, shipping containers, pretty much for any budget. And we're super kid friendly, like so kid friendly. We have a play area and a slack line, and we have a bounce house right now set up, as well as a corn pit. And we have a big trampoline set up down at the main stage area. Since we don't have any events going on, we have it set up as an extended kid area because parents love to let their kids be feral on the farm. So that's what we're doing. And yeah, we have all different size spaces, conference rooms, yurts, whatever, breakout rooms. So we can really accommodate almost anything. And if you're just in the area and you just want to come go grocery shopping, we also have a herd share. If you want to buy into my cow herd share for milk, and we do sell meat. It's still up online. I do think we're going to stop as the weather heats up. We're not going to be selling meat through the summertime. It was too much loss product when it's 100 and something degrees outside. So, but right now it's cool outside, and so you can order meat. And yeah, we're just here. We got eggs, meat, milk, veggies, nutrient dense, and we're a family business, and we're just out on the skinny branches doing what God has asked us to do. And we'd love you to participate in whatever way would fit. And you can go to sovereigntyranch.com, or you can follow me at Talk to Mollie anywhere, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube, anywhere. And I'm always speaking my mind, even if it's not popular.
That's what we love about you, Mollie. And the book, once again, guys, Debunked by Nature.
Hold it up. Debunked by Nature.
Yeah, highly recommend it. And that's her beautiful family on the cover there. Okay, Mollie. Wow, this hour flew by. Thank you for joining us. And guys, I just want to reiterate how awesome the ranch is. And it's off the beaten path. It's like an hour from San Antonio. I think it's outside of Kerrville, Texas, but it's worth it. And just getting off the beaten path is so healthy for your body and your soul. To just get quiet, get away, be around like-minded folks who love God, love nature, love food, and just go unplug. That was probably one of the best parts that we enjoyed, just being unplugged from hustle and bustle.
Well, the other thing is being on land and eating food of that land was the normal experience for the human body forever until like 100 years ago, prior to us having refrigeration. So I do think there is something special and coherent about eating food, drinking milk, eating meat, eating vegetables that literally is from that land that you're standing on there. I think it brings coherency. And I think you can feel that. And I think that our human bodies, the Homo sapien in us, that we're meant to have that. We're meant to be eating of our environment, and largely we're eating from who knows where. And so I do think there's value just in coming to the restaurant and sitting on the patio and eating a meal that, and even our sourdough bread, we don't grow our flour ourselves, but we use a local yeast from the juniper berry trees, or the cedar trees, as you guys call them here in Texas. And so it's super local. And I do think that that causes coherency in the body and causes healing. And I want to invite you just to do that. Just come and have a meal on the patio or stay overnight in one of the tiny houses.
Awesome. Okay, Mollie, can't wait to see you again in person. Thank you for all you're doing, just for being who God made you to be and being willing to put it all out there in the book and on the podcast today, being vulnerable. It's going to impact a lot of lives, and that ripple effect you'll never know. So thank you for all you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate, I'm honored to be on the planet walking at the same time as you. And thank you. I gather strength from your faith, and I appreciate you. And I'm glad that our friendship has come to fruition.
Amen. All right, everybody. That's Mollie Engelhardt, sovereigntyranch.com. Y'all check it out. We'll put this on all the podcast platforms, YouTube, spread it far and wide to all your friends. Y'all have a Merry Christmas. We'll see you in the new year. Bye-bye.